Hello, friends. Do you have a moment so that we may discuss our Lord and Savior Minarchy? No, seriously, I'm just kidding. Hi, my name's Rick Robinson. I am the general manager of KLRNradio.com. We are probably the largest independent podcast network that you've never heard of. We have a little bit of everything, and by that, what I mean to tell you is we have news, pop culture, special events, conspiratainment, true crime, mental health shows, drama productions, and pretty much everything in between. So if you're looking for a new podcast home to grab a little bit of everything that you love all in one place, come check us out. You can find us on X under @KLRNradio. You can find us on our Rumble and our YouTube channels under the same names. You can also find us at KLRNradio.com and pretty much every podcast catcher known to man. So again, feel free to come check us out anytime you like at KLRNradio.
I'm Jordan Klinger, an attorney at McIntyre Law. The decision to hire an attorney after you've been injured is important. The decision on who to hire is even more important. At McIntyre Law, we will settle a case if the offer to our client is fair. Partial justice is no justice at all. At McIntyre Law, we are committed to obtaining full justice for our clients. Contact McIntyre Law at 405-917-5200 or visit us at mcintyrelaw.com.
Hi, everyone. This is JJ, the co-founder of Good Pods. If you haven't heard of it yet, Good Pods is like Goodreads or Instagram, but for podcasts. It's new, it's social, it's different, and it's growing really fast. There are more than 2 million podcasts, and we know that it is impossible to figure out what to listen to. On Good Pods, you follow your friends and podcasters to see what they like. That is the #1 way to discover new shows and episodes. You can find Good Pods on the web or download the app. Happy listening.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
The following program contains coarse language and adult themes. Listener discretion is advised.
Standing there alone, the ship is waiting, all systems are go. Are you sure? Control is not convinced, but the computer has the evidence. No need to abort. The countdown starts. Watching in a trance, the crew is certain nothing has a chance. All is looking, trying to relax. On the capsules and me up a drink. Jokes me to the count goes on.
And good evening to everybody out at KLRN land. This is Thursday night, and that means this is your early weekend introduction because this is Disasters in the Making. How is everybody doing? I'm Brad Slager, getting ready to escort you down some of the dark alleyways, dingy hallways, and go do some movie dumpster diving. But never do this alone, because joining me as always on these fortnight features is ScreenRant.com's own Paul Young. What is going on, Paul?
Good evening, Brad. How are you today? How's your week been?
Oh, we're doing well. Got through the Easter holiday, and the week's going. We're on cruise control, and I'm in a supernal mode. I'm reaching for the stars because I have been inspired to do so, even though I'm a male.
I feel very connected to love.
Yes, I almost feel like I'm infringing upon the female realm by having space-born positive vibes and energy, but apparently, I don't know. It was very weird to watch. What we're basically referring to here, of course, is the quote historic Blue Origin flight that took place.
The 12th of such flights that they've had. That's how historic it is. It's the 12th one they've done.
This is the Jeff Bezos space venture where he has his own sexual marital aid looking rocket that flies kind of into space. And I'm unclear on the achievement here because they don't even go into orbit. They don't even break through like the proper stratospheric level to be considered true space flight. They just, I don't know, get up high enough to be weightless and have experiences and then high five each other and come down.
Well,
But
the best part is that she's like, yeah, we were astronauts because we were floating in space. Well, first off, you didn't break the stratosphere. Second, if that makes you an astronaut, then that makes every single actor that was on the Apollo 13 movie filming an astronaut, and it makes the entire band OK Go an astronaut for filming inside of the Vomit Comet. You know, the big jet plane that goes high in the air and it nosedives for like, I don't know, 10 miles or some nonsense like that. And it reproduces weightlessness for like 2 full minutes.
well, I don't even think it's that long, is it? I think it's like 30 or 45 seconds per. That's
right. They go up and down.
Float down and then they curl back up. They basically go into like a biometric flight pattern where they'll fly up and then they coast down on an angle for a period of time before they have to cut the engines back on and then go back up. And I think they do it like 3 or 4 times during each venture.
Right. I think you're right.
But this is how they filmed Apollo. In the weightlessness scenes, they had to basically get everything prepped, everybody in place. You got 30 seconds. Don't screw up your line. Go. And they do that. So the amusement here is look at Katy Perry and Gayle King come back down to earth and act as if they had achieved something that nobody has ever seen before. And they're broadcasting how, we just did this because we wanted to inspire girls and other women and just bring female empowerment to this. And everybody's basically looking at them saying, you realize there's been like 200 females that have been in space already and actually did stuff.
Yeah. Or how about the one lady that was in space just not 2 or 3 weeks ago that Elon Musk had to rescue because she was up there for 6 full months stranded?
Yeah.
How about her?
She was on her mission was she's supposed to be at the space station for like 2 weeks and she ended up spending 9 months trapped up there.
Yeah.
I think she's still trying to learn how to walk again. Not a lie, but that happens when you're a weightlessness for that period of time. You basically have to reacclimate to gravity.
Really?
Those are kind of accomplishments. She did stuff. She's experimenting up there and such. Katy Perry's hair floated around. And I covered this over at my column too, like Gayle King, the day after they landed was getting upset because people were making fun of them. And it wasn't, Republicans and conservative media dumping on her. It was people in Hollywood were like, the hell are you talking about female empowerment? You paid $35 million for a space Uber ride.
Yeah. It'd be different if they recognized what they did and just went, it was fun. I'm glad we got a chance to do it. I hope one day it's affordable enough for everyone to get a chance to do it. You should really, because it would be really great for you to just a common person to be able to experience going that high in space off the Earth. It was life-changing for me. Those are all fair statements. You don't look like a total jerkwad. You don't look. You do look like you're. Everybody knows you're rich, but you don't look like you're flying it. You're just like, I'm glad I got this chance. You know what I mean? Like there's some humility to it. Instead, it's, have you been to space? I've been to space.
But it's,
I don't know,
Katy
Gayle.
Perry.
Have you been to a grocery store? I've been to a grocery store. That makes me a grocer.
Yes. I bought vegetables last week, so I got to tell you, I'm inspiring farming in everybody because of my farming expertise.
Now, I don't want to brag, Brad. I don't want to brag, but I was once on a boat. I am now Jacques Christian. That's those. I don't make the rules. I just play by.
Katy Perry lands and she comes out and kisses the earth like she had been away for 9 months on the space station or something, and just she talked in these platitudes. I don't know if she said I actually brushed the cheek of God or anything of that sort, but it sounded like that.
I brushed the cheek of God.
I mean, I'm listening to her speak, and I just wanted to just slap her. It's like, honey, no, you went up and down. Gail King, this has cracked me up. I covered this in my media column. Her network, CBS News, I think did something like 21 segments on her, like before and after, all her preparation, all of the training they did. You sat in a chair and you unbuckled yourself. That was your training. They spent something like, I don't know, 2.5 hours of full-time coverage of her total, adding up all these segments. From the time that they said zero liftoff to the time they landed on Earth was 11 minutes.
Yeah, I was watching this TikTok of this lady. She's super funny. And she's like, Gail King's talking about how it was an amazing trip. She goes, girl, you were in the air for 11 minutes. You could have ordered a pizza, taken off, and landed, and it still wouldn't have been there.
I mean, there was really no sense of self-awareness at all in all of this. It's just,
not even a little bit.
I dropped tens of millions of dollars to go on a commute, and then they're just talking as if they've transformed space travel for all mankind, or womankind, I need to say. There was even one of the segments about that on CBS. They were talking to some other astrophysicist or space expert or something. They're like, yeah, they're doing this for mankind. They're like, excuse me, that's the improper phrase to use. It's person kind, because these is a female crew.
No one said that. Who said that? Did somebody say that? You made
and then the interviewer even apologized. Like, you're right. I misspoke. I apologize. You are correct. And this is where we're at anymore. 5 women went to space for a couple of minutes. The world is changed as a result. But okay, if you say
it's not the first time, because Jackie Gleason had been sending Alice to the moon for years. You think there's anybody listening that's going to understand that reference besides like you, me, and Aggie? Rick might get it. Gordon might get it. Gordy might get it. I don't know if
I'd say
else
Jeff
gets
too.
it.
Jeff's got a little bit of that astrophysicist thing going on, and he has a lot of opinions about this site as well. The space travel had him rather aggravated.
Oh, that's a deep, deep throwback.
Yeah, it is. But
you know what?
It just shows our age.
Well, what brings us to the movie itself is not the women going up into space. We have plenty of movies we could have chosen from to talk about women in space. But it's the landing that brings us to our film. So when the capsule, the Blue Origin capsule, the head of the sex device lands onto the desert, the women from inside the pod open it, which should open the door, which should not be possible since it should be pressurized. So it started all this conspiracy theory about whether they, excuse me, I just sneezed, about whether they actually left did they go as high as a plane would take them? Did they even leave the ground? Would you have taken the combined net worth of about $500 million and send it on a rocket into space? Would you actually have done that, which included your fiance? Nobody knows. Certainly when astronauts and pilots and that, they sign up for it. That's what they're doing. But you're taking essentially what is an unproven method of travel, and you're throwing it behind a whole bunch of rocket thrusters and you send it into space. I don't know if you can find an insurance company willing to take on that kind of leverage. So
you sign a waiver before you get on there.
Okay. All right.
Certain rides at the carnival where you have to sign. You won't sue us. Oh, okay. $35 million and no lawyers.
That's a
requirement.
There's a reason why there weren't like super rich people in the submarine that imploded going down to the Titanic. There's just certain chances these people aren't willing to take. I mean, they're not all Tom Cruise hanging onto the sides of airplanes to film a movie.
Well, the part I love too is when I'm looking at the crew, if we're going to call them that, and they each had there was like an official insignia and patch for this mission, quote unquote. And each one had a little symbol on the patch to indicate who they were. Like Gayle King had a tiny little microphone, and Katy Perry, I think, had fireworks or something. I don't know. And I'm looking at, the
serious?
women. I think, again, my caring about this is so minimal. But I was just reading through who they were and what their accomplishments are, and just why in the living hell are they on this flight? And one of them was, the children's author who has just broadened horizons for kids with her books. I was like, I've never heard of. Oh, you mean Jeff Bezos' girlfriend?
Okay,
That's why she's on the. Okay, got it now. Understood. That's her accomplishment. The guy who bought her breast also bought her ticket. Okay. So, in honor, again, quotation marks, of this mission, quotation marks, we decided to choose a film that was in similar fashion. That being fake space travel. And so Paul tapped my shoulder and said, "You know what we need to do? The 1977 sci-fi hit Capricorn 1.
I don't even know if you can call this a sci-fi film.
I think so.
They never leave the ground.
Well, yeah, but
they're on Earth the whole time.
They do fictionalize in the film astrophysics. So I'm going to go with, I think in the most technical and deliberate definition of the term, yes, this was science and it was fiction. You see how that works? So if you're, excuse me, if you're not familiar with this one, this is a hit film at the time that not very good, but this is a very, very 70s movie. The cast alone is indicative of this. It's back then it were just so many films that had sometimes like 10 people of named prominence in Hollywood appearing in the cast, and they all had like bit roles. So we get Telly Savalas, Brenda Vaccaro, Karen Black. I mean, these are all names that show up in these movies on a regular basis. None of them are top flight A-list stars, but they're in seemingly every single film. It's almost like an episode of The Love Boat, It's like, oh, I remember him. Hey, I've seen him before. The 1970s were filled with these, so we do have a well-represented cast of characters, and it is it's a romp. So basically what we're talking about is a space mission to Mars, the first manned space mission to the Red Planet. Kind of cool. Not a bad setup.
One.
And our crew, some very prominent names. James Brolin, top flight actor. Sam Waterston, veteran actor, been around forever, even still plying the trade today. And O.J. Simpson. Wait, what? Now, I know this movie back in the days when HBO was a novelty and just entering into homes. This played on the regular when it came out, and I saw it quite often. It's on again, cool. But this is my 11-year-old self being, I'm thinking I'm fascinated and captivated by something that could happen. No, it could not. No, definitely not.
Right, and they're supposed to go on an extended space mission, and they're using the capsule for Apollo 13. Like, I don't know if there's enough room for those guys to sit straight up and down for 6 months and not move around, because that's how long it takes to get to Mars, is it not? Isn't it like
it's a pretty lengthy trip, and you're not going to just sit there strapped into a bucket seat for that entire time. You're going to need mobility and moving around, like Skylab or the current space station.
Or unless Matt Damon's movie was just full of crap.
Possible. Or
I'll go with that. Wasn't Val Kilmer in Red Planet?
He was, yes.
Yeah. There are much better Mars movies out there to watch. This thing is supposed to be some sort of. It's described as a conspiracy thriller, dark comedy, action, adventure, drama, thriller on IMDb. I guess the conspiracy thriller is
Really?
Crew. Yeah, the conspiracy thriller, I'll give them that. Dark comedy, don't even understand it. There is no action in this movie. There's certainly no adventure. There is some drama. So I'm going to give them two out of the 6 they've picked on here, or 7. I'm going to give them 2 of them.
Yeah, I think that there's basically over the years somebody's like, well, that was kind of a funny line, comedy. Well, it was sort of a chase scene, action, and just pile it on, whatever. There are, I say these elements, but maybe one element of each in this movie. But nonetheless, I mean, it's if you suspend your disbelief, there could be some enjoyment I could see in this, but basically, yeah, you're turning the brain off if you're going to do so. And it doesn't take very long to run into those issues. So the thing opens up with the rocket on the pad, seen in the distance in silhouette. We hear the monotone, flatline delivery of the guy from Mission Control. There's Capricorn 1 getting ready for the takeoff. The mission will take place at 6 p.m. And, that kind of just pedantic delivery.
And there's some.
But it sounds official, right?
There's a problem in Hollywood with wanting things to be completely real. And yes, things that are real are obviously more realistic. They're also more boring, and not everything translates well into a movie. I don't need to hear that dude talking in a monotone voice and telling me all the different numbers and times and T-minus 2 days and 53 seconds and Mark 7:42. I'm not gonna follow that.
No, you need a little bit of that for reality's sake, like, look, let's just do this for the introduction. But we're 10 minutes into the movie and this guy's still going on. Capricorn mission will take place to Mars for 6-month mission for our crew. And it's like, yeah, we understood that already. Stop it. Okay, we're in the moment. Let it be. And this was similar to when they were showing the scene of them leaving the capsule on the surface of Mars. Again, quotation marks. Where he's coming down the stairs, and every single sentence had to begin with the word Houston.
Yes, make sure you know who they're talking to.
Houston, I have my hand on the door handle. Houston, I have opened the door. Houston, I am stepping to the ladder. Houston, I have taken a second step on the ladder. And it was like after 5 minutes, like, shut the hell up.
I am 2 steps from the bottom. Houston, I am 1 step from the bottom. Houston, I am getting ready to jump out. And the guy goes, cue slow motion. I started laughing.
This scene was too fast paced.
They're not really in space, so we got to cue the.
Well, that was the thing too. If they're gonna fake this, which we probably should get into that first. So we're in the capsule and they're doing the countdown, and they were what? I think 3 minutes from ignition. And
yeah.
Now, when these rockets go off, let's just step back a little bit and imagine the hundreds of people that are involved in this process, because everybody's got a job. There's so many moving parts to all of this to get a damn thing off the pad. There's people everywhere you look, there's people, right? And as they're getting ready to launch, you can see through one fishhole glass, a guy in a 3-piece suit starts just ambling right up to the rocket capsule and walks right up and opens the door and says, okay, you 3, you got to come with me.
In a suit. It's a dude in a regular suit.
He's not like a suit, vest and everything. He's not in gear. He's not in NASA insignia clothing. No. Looks like he's in a $200 Brooks Brothers special.
And no one else saw him go up you know how long it takes to get up the elevator?
Mm-hmm.
Like, he had to get on it, ride it. He had to time that out perfectly. And then I have to look it up. I have to ask Google, how long is the elevator ride?
Well, there's a lot of problems here.
The top of a rocket.
So he just opens the capsule and is like, okay, you 3, come on, we got to go. We got to go. And they're They only have like a couple of questions like, wait, what's going on? Who are you? What? Trust me, you need to come with me right now. Okay. And they just disconnect hoses and step out and go away with this guy who they've never seen before. All right. And then they take him down a hallway. And we cut back and forth between mission control, and we hear guys, reading all the time. Okay, everything's a go. Temperature is right. Oxygen levels are at their peak. Everything is checked. We are green light for launch. And in between all of this, they cut back to the 3 astronauts, and then they walk them out onto they get out of a car, they get into a helicopter, and then they take them to a tarmac where they get into a Learjet.
You ready? Hold on. I had to look this up. Okay, so what is it? You said 3 minutes left in the countdown when the guy gets up there and takes them out of the capsule?
Yeah, roughly that.
It's a 15-minute journey to go from the ground level to the top of the Saturn V rocket. 15 minutes. Like, I understand that they didn't have a Google to get into things back then and look it up real quick while they're writing of this kind of stuff. But I can't imagine, because NASA gave them equipment for this movie. Like a lot of the equipment that you see in the screen where they're sitting down behind the consoles and stuff, and NASA loaned them that so it would be more realistic. That tells me you had NASA people on staff to give you production assistance, and you didn't at any time ask them, how long should we make this countdown timer? How long would they need to get out? Okay, so we need to redo this movie entirely, or just completely ignore reality except for this part. You know what I mean?
Well, here's the other problem. We're seeing them as they, take them into the car, and then the helicopter, and then the jet. And in between, we see liftoff, right? If you ever go to Cape Canaveral or anywhere else, the rocket is almost like a mile away from anything, and that's because of the damn blast radius from the engines. So, I'm sorry. You didn't amble on over to a station wagon and load these guys into it and then into a helicopter while this thing's going off, because they'd be basically incinerated to some degree.
Yeah, they certainly were going to be as close as they were.
Here's one other problem now. And we're what, 2-3 minutes into the movie?
No, this is like 10 minutes. This whole saga is like 10 minutes long.
I mean, they do draw out this intro, and much of the movie is drawn out. By the way, this is almost 2+ hours, and it could have been 90 minutes, and even then would have been loaded. But after they pull him out of the capsule, they still go through with the entire launch. Did Houston not recognize there was nobody in there? Like there was no radio communication because these guys were in a helicopter.
They explain that.
Well, they sort of do.
Well, how Holbrook says what happens, I don't know how much of it makes sense. But
also, too, later on in the film, we see they had video inside of there. How do you explain 3 empty seats while this thing is firing off into space?
Well, that's just it. So Hal Holbrook says that they have all the footage from the training missions and all the audio, and that's what's being broadcast to everybody. So the people in Houston Houston have no idea what's going down, which is why they got rid of that one guy that kept figuring it out. And then they've got a whole production team in Burbank somewhere that I assume, that's the assumption, right? Is that this is somewhere in the LA area with a soundstage. And
supposedly in the outskirts of Houston. At some point, I think Elliot Gould, the reporter, found this out. Like there was, it was an abandoned space or Air Force area that was no longer in use, and they re-employed it for this conspiracy.
Oh, did it? Okay, I missed that. Either way, the people that are at the facility filming are broadcasting live to the world when they go to do their stuff, but then they are cutting over to film footage, training footage, when the people in the rocket or the people at Houston need to see or communicate other things. I guess I sort of understood what it is they were trying to pull off, but
right. But for that to work, the guys at Mission Control would have to be scripted. Like you would know specifically what they're going to ask, so then you could respond with the appropriate audio. You know what I'm saying? Because it's a dialogue that takes place between Mission Control and
the dialogue stuff was those guys live and at the at the fake set.
But that
then
was
when-
later. I'm
but then
talking
when-
about just during the launch sequence, because they're still in the
Oh,
helicopter,
yeah.
the plane. They're still taking them to the
Oh, yeah.
facility and explaining everything to them. So in the meantime, the rocket is on its way to Mars, and Houston is saying things like, how's your pressure? Everything's holding up. Oxygen levels are okay. We're square here. There would be that kind of exchange going on. You don't have pre-recorded audio to answer every single of those questions. I'm sorry. But
Oh yeah, I didn't think about that part. The first part I got.
no, they, faking the footage made sense later. But for the launch sequence, it's like, I'm sorry, somebody going to pick up on a problem here somewhere. How about the very fact that, we see later on too, like they have each of the astronauts' heart rate on a screen. When the capsule supposedly melted on re-entry. Okay, as soon as they disconnect the tubes, all three of them would have flatlined on a screen somewhere. So, again, we're not 10 minutes into the movie and the whole thing is already in the hopper. Unless you just forgive every single thing you watch and just let this wash over you, which you must do. So, as far as mission control and the general public is concerned, everything's going swimmingly. But we've got 3 astronauts stuck in what looks like a blank office room, plastic chairs, and Hal Holbrook comes in. Explain what's going on. This is what, 10-minute monologue from Hal Holbrook?
Oh, it's long. It's not short. And he's just talking about random stuff. It was so weird.
Yeah, he doesn't say like, okay, guys, here's what's going down, and here's why. He sits down and looks at it, Brubaker, who is James Brolin, and just starts pontificating about nothing. How far do we go back, Brew? What is it, 16 years? 16 years we've been together. You've been a trooper. We've been to fishing trips together. How are the boys doing? They're in school, aren't they? It's just, isn't this all what doing? Right here, somebody should have slapped the table and was like, the hell is going on? Yeah, Karen's got a Tupperware party coming up. Man, aren't those things something, huh? He just, rambles on and eventually gets to the point, which is space is very expensive to explore. There's so much involved and so many pieces of the pie got their hands in this operation, and there's so much money at stake. And it eventually gets to the point as they figured out one thing would have gone wrong on this trip and killed all 3 of them. But in order to keep the money flowing, they got to fake the entire thing.
And what's really weird is they never bring the president into this movie. They talk about him multiple times, but he can't be bothered. Like, people are just, the space program has just happened in 10 years prior, right? The 1967. And suddenly America is completely they've fallen out of love with space, to the point where the president doesn't care. He's got other things that are more important. So they bring the vice president to the launch gantry. They hand everybody out. There's that weird exchange with the senator. What's his name? Senator wants such wants to get an extra pair of binoculars, commemorative binoculars for his wife.
Senator Lebowski.
Yeah, and they give them and then they give other binoculars to the vice president. He immediately starts looking at that woman's flat butt.
Oh yeah.
And he's like, "Oh, the rocket's this way, Vice President." Like, yeah, they set this weird thing up between the senator's supposed to be, I guess, maybe he's supposed to be a big proponent of what's happening, and the vice president is just kind of a lackey that's there to take, a yes man, and the president has no interest. And they don't ever bring that to conclusion in the film, do they? I never saw it.
Well,
they never explore it fully.
No, we kind of have to buy into the fact that he is, I guess, one of these money men. He's one that wants to keep the program going for his own crazy needs. This is what, Senator Hollis Parker? Is that his name? And
yeah,
he played the Big Lebowski. He was the guy, micturating all over my carpet, that guy. And he's got big glasses. He's always smoking cigars, prototypical Washington politician. He wants the gravy train to continue. So it's up. And basically he's mad that it's only the vice president that shows up. In Holbrook's monologue, he even details how when John Glenn went into orbit, the entire planet was captivated and froze what they were doing. But then by the time we got to the moon, they were bitching about preempting reruns of I Love Lucy. And this is kind of the framing of, and the president doesn't care about this too, and he wants to defund the program a bit, I guess. So we have to buy all this. Now, just to kind of explain the genesis of things here. This is a baby of the director. He wrote and directed this, Peter Hyams. But he did this back in like 71.
Did he?
And initially, yeah, he didn't get any takers. Like people weren't too interested in it. But then Watergate happened. And all of a sudden, a movie that could have a conspiracy in it had some gravity to it. And then he pitched it to some producer. And like within 5 minutes, it's like, you're making this movie.
Oh yeah, Hollywood loves to jump on a trend.
So the political backbiting and intrigue is what got this thing made. And so that's what we have to buy into. So the astronauts are basically looking at each other now. It's like, why the hell would we go along with this? This is our entire livelihood, and you want us to fake it. It's like, well, all three of your families are on the same plane, and there just might be this little package on the plane that if I hit a button, boom.
And that was so weird, right? Now remember, I'm watching this thing thinking it's still it's still a dark comedy. So I'm waiting for the dark comedy to happen, and it's not. And then and he goes, "Well, we could kill your family on a plane. Go boom, they're all together." And I'm like, "That's the dark. Where's the comedy?" Like I missed it. It's not there.
Yeah, you got duped. I'm just gonna say it. You fell prey to the Hollywood hype machine, Paul. I'm sorry to tell you. I got to break it to you. But when he says this, all three astronauts are like, what about my family? That was the gripping moment. So he says this in order to motivate these guys to go along with the ruse. Problem. This mission, like we said at the start, is months long in the making. There ain't no plane flying around in the sky for 3 months with their family on board, okay? I'm sorry. So just hold out for like 8 hours. Your family's going to be on the ground. But as we find out, there's nefarious machinations in the background. And it does reach comical levels, but not intentional ones, as we'll get into.
Cabals. There's a cabal involved.
And this is the other thing. Yeah, the fake moon landing this is of course bouncing off of that. How many people have to be in to make this work? To pull this off, you have to have dozens and dozens of people on board, and none of them are going to say anything. I mean, throughout this film, we see just at this abandoned facility, dozens of guys in suits that are ushering these guys around or chasing them. You have entire flight crews and helicopters chasing them down. Everybody's going to keep shutting up about this forever. Sorry. It's just, this is where conspiracy theories fall apart. It's called reality. But they compel all three of them to go along with this. So the mission is still going on. Everybody at Mission Control is buying into it, except for one meddlesome self-starter.
Who they probably get rid of.
One of the technicians is looking into things of his own volition. He's run his own program and has come to find out that the video transmissions are coming in much, much faster than radio and telemetry transmissions. And he's run every kind of test and has rechecked it a number of times. Goes to his superior with the information. He's like, what console are you working on? Oh, number 35. Yeah, we've had bad wiring in there. Yeah. Well, I'm sorry, but this is NASA. If you had a console with bad wiring, it would be fixed
immediately.
Would it not? I mean, if you got a problem like that, you kind of need it. You fix it. But again, our guy's a self-starter. He's a motivator. Or, maybe he's a little anal retentive, but he keeps running these diagnostics and keeps coming up with the same result. So now he goes to Hal Holbrook with his complaints. And Holbrook says, "Oh, yeah, I heard about that. You're on 35, aren't you? We've had trouble with 35. We're going to have to shut that down." Huh. Okay. Maybe shut it down. I'd say fix it. You're NASA. You kind of need this stuff.
And then they literally shut it down. They put there's a tarp over it for the rest of the film.
Right. Whatever he was supposed to be measuring, we don't need to measure anymore, apparently. That's no longer mission important. But there's a little bit of convenience here where this technician also just happens to be good friends with CBS reporter Elliot Gould. Well, how's that for convenience? Robert Caulfield is his name. And he explains his concerns to Caulfield, who says, "Wow, okay, that's going to lodge in the back of my brain because I'm a cut-rate reporter and I'm going to be breaking stories left and right, so I'm going to do this. I'm going to be on it." And at some point, Caulfield has questions for his buddy. Goes to his apartment that he's been to dozens of times, and a woman answers the door, who's not his friend. And his friend doesn't let him. He just kind of eventually barges in. He's like, "Listen, I've been here dozens of times. Let me in." He doesn't even tell her, I'm a reporter. I'm with CBS News. He's just like, "Listen, I'm a crazy nut job you've never seen before. Let me in the house." All her mail, all her magazines.
And he disappears instantly. Remember they went to play pool?
Right.
Yeah. They go to play pool and he gets a phone call at the bartenders at the bar. And he's like, "Yeah, call the assignment desk." "Well, what are you talking about? What's going on?" And then he comes back and his buddy's just gone. And then he never sees him again at his console. And then it turns out Elliot Gould is the reporter that's at NASA in the press room. So I guess that's how they became friends. There's a lot of convenience here.
Yeah, this works out well for the screenwriter. And so, so Elliot Gould now has a kernel of a story, something just pecking at his brain, and he's looking into the matter. The entire apartment has been renovated, painted, new furniture, new curtains, the mail, everything's got his buddy's address on it, but this woman's name. And, I've been here dozens of times. And later even says he checked with the landlord and they said that she's been living there for over a year now.
And they got paperwork that goes through the year. I give that lady credit too, because she was obviously a plant. Played her role well.
She had to be in on this conspiracy. This is what I'm saying. For this conspiracy to work, the net of people involved is so broad. But this lady, what do you pay someone to do this? Yeah, we need you to live in an apartment and insist that you've lived there for years, just in case somebody shows up. They didn't even know the reporter was looking for this guy.
Yeah, it's just they just completely removed him from the earth. Was he like a loner? Did he not have a wife, mom, dad, siblings, somebody that he loved that came and checked in on him? He's just a nerd at NASA that only the reporter was friends with. Well, no other friend is looking for him.
And what about the rental office? You have to get everybody in there. It's listen, anybody comes snooping around, you never heard of Roger, okay? Mrs. Levencock has been there for 18 months. You understand? That's what you're going to tell anybody that shows up. It's
such a weird thing. They could have just disappeared him, but they had to try to make it in the movie. They had to try to make it seem as if they had erased him. And I guess they were trying to do it to show the gravitas of the situation and show how deep it went. But I'm like,
this is the thing that back then in my 11-year-old mind, I'd be like, wow, man, the government is this powerful. They could just make someone disappear or make her look like. And of course, my adult self is like, wait a second. I've got about 36 problems with this scenario. It's just where, that's the thing is this movie was basically made for 11-year-olds, but back in 77, adults watched this and went like, well, Watergate happened. This could too.
Right. I mean, Watergate was a thing, and it's true. And what was it? All the President's Men? Is that the Robert Redford movie about it?
Yep.
Yeah. So I mean, and that was actually a pretty good movie, and it covers the unfolding of it pretty well. But this did not, because they had nothing to go off of. They had to make it fake. If you were to talk about conspiracy films, I would say that my number one conspiracy movie / not very good, but also pisses me off at the same time, is Arlington Road. Have you watched?
it.
You've never seen Arlington Road?
That's with Tim Robbins, right?
Tim Robbins and oh goodness gracious, he's in MCU now. What's that fella's name? Jeff Bridges. So Jeff Bridges in Arlington Road is such a good conspiracy film because you have this conspiracy throughout the film that Jeff Bridges is a bad guy and Tim Robbins is a good guy. Then the movie goes and shows you that Jeff Bridges is the bad guy and Tim Robbins is the good guy. And at the end of the film, Jeff Bridges has convinced everyone else that Tim Robbins is the bad guy and he is the good guy. And the movie ends that way, and you're like, no, nope, I need better. I need a better conclusion. Like, that's a good conspiracy. That's a good way to go to it, and then it pisses me off so much that I can't watch it again. I could never watch this movie again. It pisses me off that much.
It's almost like Geostorm, where Ed Harris was the corrupt, spoiler alert, member of the administration who was behind the takedown of Dutch Boy.
Yeah. Seriously, you get a chance, you watch Arlington Road, you'll only need to watch it one time because the ending will upset you so much because they don't resolve it to a positive conclusion that you'll never want to watch it again, but you will not be upset that you've watched the film. Because Jeff Bridges and Tim Robbins are fantastic actors, so it helps.
Well, you just said I was going to be upset if I watch this.
You are. You will be upset at the movie. You will not be upset that you've watched it. It's not a waste of time.
I'm conflicted.
But that's how you do a conspiracy.
Right.
And this movie, for everything that it does, doesn't play the conspiracy part of it very well.
Well, it almost seems like this is written by somebody who says, I'm going to look up conspiracy and see what's involved. Oh, government overreach, oppression, and erasing people. Yeah, let's just do all of that. Yeah, that's okay. This is a conspiracy now. And yeah, for this to work, though, it basically be like winning the lottery 4 times over. Like, everything has to go off without a hitch. Everybody has to be on board at the same time. Nobody's going to speak one word about this to anyone else ever. And the one guy that does will be completely erased off the face of the planet.
They even talk about some other conspiracies when they try to make Elliot Gould seem crazy, right? He's like, "Oh, I'm crazy." He's losing his mind. That's how they're going to take him out that way, as being crazy. And his editor even says that you came to me talking about two.
I love that scene so much.
You interviewed the second shooter of the JFK assassination, and I thought, this didn't age well since they just proved that there was a second shooter in the JFK assassination. Thanks for opening up those files, Trump.
We got that's David Doyle. He would be Bosley fame from Charlie's Angels. We're definitely gonna pick this scene apart because I loved it. But first, conspiracy. So Elliot Gould's knocking on doors and asking the wrong people the wrong questions, gets in his brand new Mustang, and it's been tampered with.
Such an awesome car, by the way.
Beautiful car. You don't see too many of them in that blue color either. So it was a very cerulean Mustang. Oh, beautiful.
Oh yeah, I loved it. I was like, man, how do you afford that on a rider's salary?
Now, usually when you see somebody tampers with a car, they've messed with the brakes and the brakes won't start, right? This thing was completely compromised. The brakes didn't work. The emergency brake didn't work. That's always another flaw too. Like if cars are running away, you just hit the emergency brake, thing comes to a stop, done. No, emergency brake didn't work. The gear shifter didn't work. And all the time,
it's like the gas pedal is slammed to the floor.
Meanwhile, the car's speeding up the entire time. And he's going through alleys, honking his horn, almost running over people. Now, beautifully shot scene. I don't know how they orchestrated this. A couple of times, like he comes through the alley at full speed into traffic and people. Almost hit a bus at one point. And
he tries to turn the car off and the whole ignition comes out of the dash.
He turns the key on and off and pulls the entire thing out.
There must have been an Indy team of mechanics down there on his car, because he was only up he's like up to that lady's apartment for like 2 minutes, maybe 3.
Mm-hmm.
And they chop shop that car like he had parked it outside of Detroit apartment complex.
Well, I can actually explain this, Paul.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
NASA technicians. There you go. There you go.
I didn't think anything about that.
So he's bust assing through town, almost hitting people, destroying so many barricades and everything else until he finally gets out by the port, runs through about a dozen barricades, hits a half-open drawbridge, and then, of course, we get Hollywood physics rule. Anytime a car goes into the water, it has to be in slow motion. That's a rule. So he hits the ramp and slowly descends, and man, he died. Oh no, he's swimming in the ocean. He's okay.
And they never went after him again.
Well, they do.
I guess they do. Yeah, they do later. They try to take him out another way, but
so now we're back to the fake mission.
Well,
the astronauts.
Real quick, fun fact: that scene where he's driving around town and can't shut his car off for some reason, can't find a nail or run into a rock bed to keep his car from going forward. It's the engine that never quits. They used that as stock footage in an episode of The Fall Guy a few years later.
There we go.
That scene, they did not waste that scene. They used it once and they came back and said, let's use it again. They added it to The Fall Guy.
But just to also underscore the danger of all this, they speed up the film. So at one point, he's like tearing through town at double speed. Pretty comical too. But back in the day, this apparently worked. So yeah, we faked the landing footage. We get Houston, I'm on the second to last rung. Houston, I'm on the last rung. Houston, I'm touching the surface. Houston, I'm taking a step. Houston, my foot has come down on that step. So we get through all that.
The ground is dusty. The rocks feel porous.
Wait. Who's he talking to? Oh, Houston.
Houston. Houston. Yeah. I should have specified.
I blanked a little bit. They weren't clear exactly who he was communicating to. But next we get a touching scene because they're so far away you can't have direct communication. You can't have a conversation. But on the trip home, they got closer, and eventually they could finally speak to their family. And each astronaut has a touching moment with their wives. And Brenda Vaccaro on national television just says, well, your son's so proud. I'm going to read
a composition.
He wrote an essay in school. I'm going to read the entire thing about my dad. I love my dad. He's so brave and he's doing something for me. Just this thing takes 5 minutes. And the movie is just filled with these things that, she couldn't just say your son wrote a composition, got an A. He's so proud of you. Thanks, honey. No, she has to read the actual composition. Okay, let us know when you're done then. And Hal Holbrook is about to pull the plug on this because he's convinced at this point Brubaker is going to squirrel the deal. And we have a gripping scene where a guy at Houston Control has his finger above the button that's going to disconnect the communication. They actually have a button that specifically does this. It's a long red button that lights up, and above it on the console, it actually says communication disconnect. That's handy.
I saw that. Yeah, it's just a big button. Like, why would you ever need to disconnect your communications?
So, and he's hinting at things, and then he says something to his wife about the family trip they took last summer. And Holbrook is on the phone with the guy with the button. Hold on, not yet. I'll let you know when to cut it off. Not yet. Because he's so convinced Brubaker's going to spill the beans, but doesn't. So the call ends naturally without the disconnect button employed. However, our reporter, Elliot Gould, has picked up on something. He's watching a replay of this, and when Brubaker mentions the summer trip they took to Yellowstone, her face makes a little twitch, a little reaction, and then she's like, oh, yeah. When we went to Yellowstone, yes. Well, Elliot Gould has picked up on this. So he goes to have a word with Brubaker's wife. Because now there's a problem. Upon re-entry, the unmanned capsule had its heat shield break and disintegrated. Now everybody's convinced the astronauts are dead, but the astronauts are still alive somewhere in the Houston desert.
Houston has a desert?
I'm going with it. That's what the movie says. And why would the movie lie to me, Paul?
This thing was clearly shot in California. I mean, you could tell. That's why I assumed it was in California. That's why I assumed they had this outside of Burbank. I didn't realize it was Houston.
I'm just going with the narrative. That's what they told me. So it has to be true. So now this is the part that also didn't make sense. Add to the list. After re-entry and the capsule melted and disintegrated, the 3 astronauts find out about this.
No, they assumed.
Well,
Brubaker makes the assumption. He's like, why are we in here? Why are we not back to be dropped off in the water? He goes, because they've come up with something. They can't have us show up. He said, they've done something like the chutes didn't open or the heat shield separated. Like, oh, that's very convenient that you guessed it on the second try.
Well, the initial plan was to have the capsule land like 200 miles away from the prescribed spot. They were going to fly them out and then put them in the capsule so that it would, give them time to get flown to that location. So the rescue boats would then show up with them inside. But then the heat shield separation was accident. They didn't anticipate that. And so I don't know if they heard where they were, in the room they were holed up in. I think maybe they heard the audio. I don't know. Seems to me they should have already been out on location.
I thought it was planned that they planned the whole time to kill these guys on re-entry. I thought that's what Holbrook said to something on the.
Well,
he was on the phone with somebody, some shadowy figure, and he was like, "Yeah, I thought he said it's going according to plan or something."
Well, no, because in order for them to break out and hit go beat cheeks out in the desert is because of this. Because they said, well, if I think Brolin says it. He's like, well, if we've died on re-entry, they don't need us anymore. They have to get rid of us, and that was their motivation to then go escape. Otherwise, they were going to come back and fake the landing and wave, and everybody was happy. But now that the capsule melted, they can't have the astronauts show up. So that's what they said. We got to get out of here. And then they find out the door's locked. Jimmy the hinges, and they escape after beating up 3 guys in suits on the tarmac, and they take off in a jet.
Okay, maybe that's right. I didn't catch that part of it. I assumed that there was something else going on then.
Well, yeah, they didn't make it real clear. Like Hal Holbrook should have been in some form of panic. Like, holy crap, this thing melt. Because understand, the whole reason they faked the mission is in order to keep the money flowing. So if this melts on re-entry, that completely ruins their entire plan.
So
it does now
from leaking information, like coming back later. They make a big deal of him grabbing that gun too, don't they?
Which he ends up leaving in the desert.
and then never confronts anybody to the point where he would have needed the gun.
Yeah, it's like they found what they call it. It was a rescue supply box or something that was inside the jet.
Had a pack of cigarettes in it.
Yeah.
That's what you want to go out into the desert. There's a pack of cigs.
Well, it's convenient too that it just happened to have 3 cans of water. Not a lot, 12 ounces each. Here you go. You got one, you get one, you get one. 3 flares, and they had to sit there and divide up all their other remaining supplies between them. And they decide to split up. We're not going to go east because that's where we flew from. So one west, go north, you go south. And then it was kind of a cool crane shot too, that it's on the plane. We see them walking away and it starts craning back to watch them wander off into the desert.
But nobody knows where they're going. They're just walking. What if east was where you needed to go?
Yeah, it's kind of like almost in The Incredibles. It was like, wait, you want to go where the rocket came from? It's like, well, that's clearly where land is. Okay, there's got to be some civilization from where they came from. But no, we got to have this third act adventure in our film.
Oh, is this the adventure portion of it?
That's what I'm going to go with. I mean, it feels like it maybe could have been.
I guess.
Sure. So there are the heat and the dust and the dirt going through their stuff. Meanwhile, Elliot Gould is trying to get to the bottom of things. He speaks to Brubaker's wife about this video exchange that he picked up on. It's like, man, your husband, you had a funny reaction. This conversation, like we talked about Brenda Vaccaro looking like, she just wanted to do more and be given more. This scene was the epitome of that, because first he shows up at her house. The husband's dead. Everybody thinks so. He's the only reporter to show up at her front door. I find that hard to believe, because earlier when they were launching, they had like 6 reporters on her front lawn. But the husband died, and he just comes and knocks on the door, and the cop's like, she's got no visitors. Like, oh no, I called ahead. She wants me. But he has this conversation with her. He's like, now he mentioned the vacation and you looked kind of funny. She's like, yeah, because he got the location wrong. He's like, your husband doesn't get it wrong. She's like, why are you asking these questions? I can't tell you. Why not? So he's basically infringing on the privacy of a woman who just became a widow, but he won't tell her why he's asking these very specific questions.
I guess he doesn't want to seem like a nut job, but too late for that.
Yeah, and he's I need to find this out. I need to find this out. She says to him, why? And he turns to her and says, you ask very good questions.
You're a smart lady. Do you know that?
Why is a smart question? No, you're a stranger. You showed up at my house. Why are you plugging me with all this interrogation? What the hell's going on? You're a very intuitive woman to ask that question. It was 3 letters. Explain yourself. But this all ties in with his missing buddy, and he thinks something might be askew. And he said they went to Yellowstone when actually they went to Black Rock or something in Arizona.
Well, he said Yosemite, and it was actually Flat Rock in Arizona,
which is one of those hokey little ghost towns, where everybody dresses up like cowboys and has pretend shootouts and such. So Elliot Gould's walking around investigating this place. Not a soul to be seen. Just him on a Western movie set. 2 gunshots ring out and explode right next to his head. He then dives down in the dirt in the middle of the street.
He was standing next to the building, and he is multiple feet away after dropping down to the ground.
So instead of running into a building to take cover, he goes in the middle of the street and just drops down. And then you hear tires squeal as somebody drives away. Well, everything around him is dirt, so I'm sorry, yeah. No tires are squealing. But
I'm glad you picked up on that too, because I felt the same way. I'm like, well, hold on, they're dirt. Where's the tire squealing come from? These are dirt roads. The whole thing is it's an literal Old West set.
But on top of that, if you're trying to kill a guy and you miss and he drops down on the ground,
don't you take another shot?
2 more shots and your job is done. But instead it was like, damn it, I missed. I better get out of town quick.
Well, and here's the other part. It's like, I get it. You don't want him to see you, but why does it matter if he sees you if you're planning on killing him? Why would you take a long distance shot? Why wouldn't you go into this completely abandoned desert town where no one else is there and walk up behind him and shoot him in the head and then leave? Then you can dispose of his body. Nobody will ever find it because it's an abandoned Western town.
Now, full disclosure, neither Paul or myself are hired assassins. We don't do this for a living. This is all mere speculation. But yeah.
Mere speculation. Again, I wouldn't say you need to bring lye with you. I'm not saying you would need that, but you might. You might need some lye. Or in a shovel.
50-gallon barrel of acid.
One of those plastic bags from Dexter.
Yeah. I mean, wrapping a body up in chicken and dumb legs for the gators to find. See, these are just speculative options that some people in movies might employ.
Like
trying to get rid of a body. Just saying that.
Like, have you ever seen the story on Reddit, the Reddit story about how to dispose of a dead body? Like, if you were going to get away with a murder, how would you do it? Everybody's just speculated. And this one dude gets on. I'll have to find the link and send it to you. This one dude gets on there and he goes, well, what I would do originally is I would bury the body in a shallow grave and then dig it up so that the scent is there, but the grave's only a few feet deep. Then I would move the body somewhere off site, and then I would join in the hunt process looking for the body. When they find the shallow grave because the scent's on it, they would abandon the shallow grave and keep looking. At which point I would return with the body and put it back into the shallow grave and refill it. And because nobody's going to go look in the same spot twice. And the whole Reddit forum is like, oh my gosh, you're a serial killer. He goes, I've got to go now. It just disappears.
I've said too much.
I must leave. They don't put a lot of thought process into getting rid of it. They want the audience to know that Gould's character no longer needs to exist and that he's the driving force behind uncovering this conspiracy. But they don't actually want to take the steps necessary to dispose of him accordingly.
Well, the problem is also the convenience, and that is now Elliot Gould is convinced somebody's trying to kill him. And the problem, of course, trying to kill him would have killed him. But now they know that he knows that scam going on, and they left that door open. Oops, but again, convenient for the screenwriter.
And this is months long. This is a month.
Yes.
This is like a 10 or 11 month long project. In the movie, they keep showing us the dates. It starts like in January 11th or something. It goes like all the way to like September, October, November sometime. You're telling me that the only opportunity they've had to dispose of Elliot Gould was 3 opportunities and they failed on all 3?
He's a cagey reporter, Paul. This guy's a slippery eel. He's not that easy. Plus, there's a lot of other stuff going on. You know, they're busy. They have a mission to fake here.
Their attention is divided. I get it.
So he goes back to Brenda Vaccaro now and says, to upset you, can I call you some other time and upset you further? So he shows up and does by telling her, I think your husband's alive. Okay, Mr. Abrupt, what's going on here? Well, she says that on their vacation to Black Rock at this fake town, they just happened to be there when they were shooting a movie. And they just happened to bring the family in as part of the production. Like we see the kids in the director's chair that starts hovering over the street and operating the cameras and such, and says, yeah, my husband was really captivated with the way that they could fake something and make it look so real. And a switch goes off in Elliot Gould's head. Now he's convinced there's a conspiracy to fake the Mars landing. And so he takes his story to his executive editor, who hates him.
For no reason. That's never explained. I hate you. Okay. What's my character's motivation in this film? Where you hate him? Why? You just do. Gotcha.
I mean,
all I need.
This discussion, David Doyle, this is Bosley playing the role here, and at one point looks at Elliot Gould and says, "I don't like you," and tells him the reason why. This is the part that I can't get over. He's like, "I don't like you. You're ambitious." Yeah, you don't want that in an employee, huh? God forbid you have a reporter who's a self-starter.
You certainly don't want anybody like that as a reporter.
And he starts rattling off. He's like, you found Patty Hearst 3 times, yada, yada, all these other times that Elliot Gould, I guess, thought he had something. But then he also says to him, "You think the way to get ahead in this business is to get the scoop of the century." Yeah, he's a reporter.
That's how it works.
So, that's like saying, "Man, you think the way to become a great baseball player is to get the home run record." Yeah, he's a reporter. He's supposed to get scoops, and you're sitting there shitting on him. I mean, come on, it's his job. But okay, I guess we've all had these editors in our past before. So he has a hard time selling this to his boss. So he has to take it upon himself and figure things out. But Elliot Gould is just a muckraker to do this. He's going to get to the bottom of it. Another reporter now tells Caulfield, this is Elliot Gould, that, I don't know, he would never make a mistake. Like he says, the astronaut would never make a mistake about his vacation like this. There has to be a reason he said this. So another reporter lets him know that there's this abandoned military base outside of Houston. And now it's, I don't know, like hundreds of miles out. So it could very well be in the Texas desert. I'll grant the movie this, maybe. I'll have to talk to Aggie and find out if this is actually true. But so Caulfield takes it upon himself to go look for this place, finds the necklace medallion that he used to pry out the bar from the hinges of the door when they first escaped. So now he knows it. They were there. He's figured this out. Caulfield's got to have a nice expense budget for a boss that hates him, because he managed to get his way out to Arizona and check out this scene, no problem. And then he also managed to get out to this abandoned military base with no problem. Imagine what this guy could do if his editor liked him. But he then says, "I got to go find these guys." So he finds a crop duster pilot, Telly Savalas.
Who loves you, baby? You know what's so funny about Telly Savalas playing this character? First off, he wasn't eating a lollipop. That's a Kojak reference for those of you who even know who Kojak is. Second, Telly Savalas was deathly afraid of flying, to the point where he would drive to most of the places he wanted to go. Like if he needed to travel, he would rent a bus, and he would have somebody drive him. So for him to play a pilot on a biplane, it's kind of comical. Maybe that's where the dark comedy comes from.
He's got John Madden disease. So yeah, he basically hires Telly Savalas, and I mean Savalas here is just over the top with it. He just had fun with this role. He's like, "I'm going to be just as outgoing and boisterous and obnoxious as possible." Just sells it, lets it loose, lets it rip. So they're flying, checking out the landscape, and they find James Brolin. Of course they do. And the 2 helicopters that have been chasing these guys down. So earlier, O.J. Simpson is collapsed in the sand. Yeah, remember O.J. was in this movie?
Mm-hmm.
You'd be forgiven to forget this, because I don't think he has actually spoken on camera for the first 45 minutes of this film. Hardly at all. I mean, there's a bunch of scenes with all 3 astronauts, and yet Yeah. Just stand there, OJ. You're fine juice. Just, you don't have to say much. We're not going to ask too much of you. And okay, just look pretty, I guess. And don't kill anybody.
Well, Peter Hames didn't even want O.J. Simpson in this film.
He was forced to take him on.
He got DEI'd into it.
It was by the studio?
Yeah, so Hames was in an interview because O.J.'s dead now, right?
Yes, he is.
Okay, and they never found the killer. That's just so disappointing. In 2016, he was in an ESPN documentary, O.J. Made in America, and the director admitted the studio made him a mandate to cast O.J. Simpson as Walker. He said, "I thought there were other worthy African American actors who had paid their dues, who had shown their talent. My first choice was either Robert Hooks or Bernie Casey." I'm not familiar with either one of those guys. Are you?
No, not offhand.
Oh my gosh. Okay, Robert Hooks. I recognize his face almost immediately. He was in Star Trek and a couple other things. And then, Bernie Casey. Man, how did I not know his name? He's Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. He's the principal. Or no, he's and he's in Revenge of the Nerds as the Tri-Lambs, the head of the president of the Tri-Lambs. And I'm Gonna Get You, Sucker. Both of those guys would have been fantastic. He said, so my reaction was less than enthusiastic. I had seen The Towering Inferno and thought Simpson's acting was not going to frighten Daniel Day-Lewis. He said, but because of his enormous celebrity stature, for someone who's not known to shown the chops to play the part, my goal was to see if this guy make this guy work for what I wanted. When it came time to do his last scene, he's supposed to be parched and delusional. So rather than acting like somebody who was desperately thirsty, I put appliances on his face that made it difficult for him to move and difficult to talk. And it just made him sound like he was in desperate trouble.
That's kind of the...
He said he was a charming and terrific guy. He's very positive and tried very hard. And it's clear that he saw a future for himself in film.
Yeah, that's like a new form of method acting. Where you basically impose it on the performer. So instead of going out and getting thirsty and hot and sweaty, he just basically made it impossible for him to talk, so he sounded that way. Got it. But yeah, basically we see OJ, he's like collapsed in the dirt, and you see pock marks and sores on his lips and everything. He's like, birds, the vultures are getting me, birds. But then his vision clarifies and it's the two helicopters. Oops. So he's picked up. Later we see Sam Waterston having to climb, it's not quite a mountain, but it's a pretty sizable edifice that he's got to scale. Boy, was this scene long and ponderous.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, he's again, full of dirt and sweat and everything else, and he's just rambling on with some monologue about a cat.
And some dude with a cat. Like Sam Waterston is great. Law and Order. Dun 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 dun. He's fantastic. He always will be. And this is just such an odd role for him.
Well, he's and we're supposed to buy into the fact that he's delirious because of his condition. It's hot, sweaty, water. I need this cat's on a roof, and meanwhile he's climbing the whole time. It's almost like he's entertaining himself or such. And he gets to the precipice of this thing and climbs up, and the cat made it, and he's like, because the two helicopters are sitting right there, waiting for him. Sorry, did you not hear the helicopters at some point?
Yeah. Well, I never understood this part. First off, couldn't you have walked around the mountain? Why did you feel the need to climb it?
Well, apparently it's a very long stretch of mountainside. I guess.
And second, it looks like these guys have been in the desert for what, 3 weeks?
You would think.
It's just the way it is. At one point, James Brolin tears his suit apart and puts on a head bandana like he's Karate Kid to get ready to go into his final fight with Oh, I can't remember the guy's name. Johnny. He's getting ready to go fight Johnny. And that's how he's walking through the desert. Don't cover your head with it, buddy. Just put it around your forehead to keep the sweat from getting in your eyes. And then every time they shoot the flares off, these guys can see it immediately. So how far have you actually traveled? If you've only gone several miles in the same day, how are you that parched and that thirsty and that dirty and that tired?
Well, Paul, your questions are very offensive to the screenwriter.
I asked good questions. Elliot Gould told me so.
See, this is your problem, Paul. You're too ambitious.
I am too ambitious. Yeah, well, there weren't actually 2 shooters. There were 3, but no one hears me.
Well, so yeah, he gives it. I love that aspect of Hollywood too. You see this every so often during scenes where people are fighting or doing something, and then all of a sudden, a helicopter surprisingly rises up above the edge of a building or something. Like you didn't hear this coming for miles. Yeah. Helicopter ambush. That's a thing. So they get Sam Waterston. Now it's just, man, are they going to get the Brolin, or is Brolin going to make it? I don't know. Paul.
It's because they disguise themselves as birds. That's how OJ didn't see him.
Well, I tell you, the only way that can beat this top flight conspiracy of high technology, NASA intrigue, is a biplane. This is going to foil all their plans. So they managed to find him.
What is he crop dusting? That was my other question.
True.
There's where are you flying? If you're so close to civilization that they can plant trees or fruit or vegetable or plant anything to grow, that you need to crop dust it, well, then they should have found civilization much quicker than they did. If not, why are you in the middle of the desert crop dusting?
It's again, plot convenience, of course, but this is always the thing. It's if you need an abandoned gas station in the middle of nowhere, you can have it without asking why in the hell would there be a gas station out there. Same thing with this crop dusting. What, cactus? Okay. So they fly around and they spot him, but so do the helicopters. And now they only have time. They can't just land and bring him on board. They only have time to sort of slow down on the ground and allow James Brolin to climb on the wing.
And don't strap him on. Don't add a belt to him. Nothing. Just make him hold on for dear life, holding onto a thin piece of airline cable that's cutting into his hand the whole time.
He's a pilot, Paul. He's a test pilot. He's an astronaut. He can handle aviation. This. No problem.
So you're telling me he's holding, it says here that a biplane can travel 60 to 150 miles an hour. It's a Stearman. A Stearman can, a stall speed of 60 and a cruising speed of 100. So that's a Stearman. He's flying a Stearman. So you're telling me that he's holding on with no goggles after eating only a snake in a cave over the course of many days and not drinking any water. You're telling me he has the strength to hold on to a biplane going that fast?
Yes.
Okay, I believe you.
Only because I saw it. But yeah, we glossed over the snake scene. That's when Brolin was in this little cave, found a rattlesnake, killed it, and used his safety mirror to cut open the stomach and eat it raw.
Oh, so gross.
Pretty damn cool scene when you're 11 years old.
It is a pretty cool scene. They said the stunt guy, the flying guy, I want to find his name here because I want to get it right. I don't know if you caught this portion of it. And he said it was one of the most dangerous flying situations or stunt flying he had ever done.
Got to, because it's Hollywood, man.
And but
camera, that's just the way it is.
But then that fella that was doing the flying actually passed away in a crash a few months later.
Huh.
Yeah, it's kind of sad.
The Capricorn 1 curse. Well, we do get a chase scene now between two top flight jet powered NASA helicopters and a biplane. Who do you think is going to win this one? Obviously, the biplane, because Telly Savalas, in his wisecracking wisdom, once they're behind him, unleashed his dust, puts out his smoke, and this causes the helicopters to crash. Apparently they can't fly through smoke, I guess, is the way this plays out.
I get. And the reason is because the helicopters weren't actually firing any bullets. If you look at, and I didn't have to read this to know this, I could just see it. The rockets or machine guns or whatever they were on the sides of on the skids of the helicopters, they're just light boxes. If you go back and you watch it, you just see the light blink. It's just blinking on and off multiple times. I did confirm this looking online. But did you know that the helicopter / crop duster sequence was used in an episode of The Fall Guy and the A-Team? This movie has been reused. It has been reused a lot throughout the years of through most of the 80s.
Wow. They must have licensed their material out quite frequently. I wonder if they had a Wilhelm scream somewhere too, because that's kind of mandatory to be shared.
And we didn't talk about this, but I don't know if you caught this. But that scene where he's passing out the rations with the canned water and the cigarettes, and they both turn it down. There's a knife in the kit. Did you notice that he pulls the knife out, looks at OJ, and then gives it to Watterson? Did you catch that? And it didn't mean anything then, but it means a lot more now.
Wow. This is our film, but God. We're supposed to be at the edge of our seat at this point. Is he gonna make it or not? Well, the helicopters crash, and now Caulfield has rescued Brubaker, and a memorial service is being held for the astronauts, two of which are in fact dead now. We have to assume, but because this is filled with live television network coverage of the memorial service, it's considered to be a deeply enervating and heroic moment when we see James Brolin and his scraggly self slowly jogging up onto the scene. And it's left to us to assume that this is this is going to unravel the entire conspiracy. And as a result, ground NASA missions for decades to come.
And cue slow motion at the end of the film. The whole last 30 seconds is nothing but slow motion that continues to get slower.
It just gets more dramatic the slower you run, is the way that works out. This is our movie. He made it. It's been exposed, and apparently Elliot Gould got his scoop of the century. Except it's not so much a scoop because of all the live coverage taking place. Every single news outlet has the story at exactly the same time. So much for your scoop. But there you have it. There's Capricorn 1. And this is available pretty much everywhere. Whatever platform you want, they got it. It's on
Peacock. I watched it on Peacock.
Oh, did you?
Mm-hmm.
So you had no commercials then?
Yeah, no commercials.
There you go. See, no, it's on all the Fast network. I watch it on Plex, but it's also on Tubi and Pluto and a few others. You can find. I'll say this is still a roundly stupid movie, but I think entertaining enough. It's just, I think they could have cropped about 30 minutes out of this thing.
Crop dusted.
No, just there's so many scenes that just play out for quite a while that really could have been, a little more succinct. Let's just go with that. But nonetheless, I still think it's fun. It's got that little cheesy conspiracy 70s kind of vibe to it, where it's like, oh yeah, everything was suspicious back then. Of course they faked the Mars landing.
I would have been suspicious of that lady that was living in his apartment just for her corduroy overalls she wear.
And you got to also laugh at just all the various. They're not even cameos, but they're just small roles. Like Karen Black is in one scene with Elliot Gould, and she's a hotshot reporter along with him, and she asks one of the first questions at a news conference, and then we never see her again.
No, she shows up after he gets arrested for them planting that humongous vial of cocaine in his medicine cabinet. She comes and bails him out.
Forgot about that one, right? True. So they did get their money out of her. Okay. Good then. Well, that's going to do it for our space mission. We splashed down successfully with this one. So, Paul, why don't you let everybody know, where can they find some more of your content around the inner tubes?
Running around on Zitter. And I haven't done much in TikTok. I need to make a TikTok video of something. I need to go find some sort of unique toilet somewhere. Maybe one at like a space toilet.
Where on earth are you going to find this? And you definitely have to let us know.
I have a picture of me on a space toilet in at Space Camp from like 2014. I have to see if I can find it.
Now, you're on it. Were you using it?
Probably not. Because there were other people taking pictures too.
I just wanted to ascertain how much of this we needed to see is what I was going for. But okay. As long as you're still clothed while you were testing it out, that's cool. All right. Well, as for myself, you can find me on a regular basis at townhall.com. I've got my daily media column there. I'm also on the front page of Red State pretty regular, where I've got a twice weekly podcast there. It's called Liable Sources, covering the media and all its mayhem. And you can hear more of me on this network. Next Thursday, I'll be here with Orty Packard, because he and I will guide you through all the important entertainment information on the Culture Shift. Tuesday evenings, I'm here at 8.5 with the ever-effervescent Aggie Reekin on the Cocktail Lounge, bringing all kinds of leisure activities for you, from drinking to sports, science, art, anything to take your mind off of the screwed up political and social networks. And special notice too, next day, Friday, in fact, I keep forgetting where we're at. We got the big KLRN drama that we're putting on, where the KLRN players are going to bring the radio version of Alice in Wonderland to your ears tomorrow evening. By all means, check that out. And if you need more of me than that, let's face it, you do. You head over to Jitter. I'm at Martini Shark. All right, Paul, we got 2 weeks in front of us. We got to pick another feature so that we can infect it airwaves here at KLRN.
I bet you we find something decent, or not so much.
Yeah, I was going to say, no, that's not what we do here. It's the opposite. So.
Let's hope somebody goes to space again, because I'd like to talk about Space Camp.
Yes. A weightless Elizabeth Shue. I know how you feel about that. Well, we'll poke around. We'll see what's coming in theaters or in the news, what's taking place, and we will find an appropriate feature to tie into it here on Liable Sources. I'm sorry. Wow,
or
tripped over that. How about disasters in the making?
There you go.
There you go. I was just looking at my label for some reason on that screen. How about that? But, we'll be a little more professional here on Disaster.